Thank you. It's interesting being called a building company. I actually think we're an analytics company, but I might be able to clarify that up a little bit more. So who am I? I'm Laura Tönnies. Happy to speak in front of you today. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Corrux. We're a company headquartered in Munich and Boston. And what we do is we eliminate downtime by using predictive analytics, different types of mathematical models on infrastructure construction sites, thereby giving our end users an industrial advantage. And before talking a little bit about more specifically what we do, I'm going to go into what really the pains of one of the global industries is. If you see these kind of numbers, they're always very intangible. You're talking about 70 trillion. That's close to our world's GDP, but that's about how much investment is needed in the next years in our infrastructure domain. And many might not know where all this money is actually efficiently being deployed to through examples like what we've seen in Berlin with the airport or the somewhat disastrous project that's been happening there with Stuttgart 21. Everything has been very ominous as to, is capital really deployed reasonably in infrastructure projects? So then you think, okay, what could be saved? What could be saved if you actually made this domain a little bit more efficient, if you employed technology and started developing data-led or technology-led services that alleviate the pains that are very present on these industries? And McKinsey actually found that you could save up to 1.6 trillion, which is 2% of our global GDP. Of our 80 trillion global GDP, so back relating to big numbers. There's a lot at stake here, so we're dealing with a very, very significant industry. But the problem is this industry, our construction industry, has not really developed a lot in the past years. If you compare productivity to our total economy, or even to other developments like in the technology space, productivity in construction has massively been lagging behind. And this is what we tackle. We look at cases in infrastructure domains, mainly tackling projects which are over 100 million in project volume, and looking at key equipment and how we can make that equipment more efficient through analytics. So the typical step is that we gather data on the far left side from complex equipment. So picture anything bigger than a tractor. So a big excavator, a paver, all the way to what you see there at the bottom, which is a tunnel boring machine, so very, very complex pieces of machinery. We do that by docking onto APIs of OEMs and manually extracting data and reverse engineering the data because it's heavily encrypted data which we get directly from the machine. Then our sweet spot, and this is where the main intelligence of our data team actually lies in processing that data. So looking at what can you do to make the actions on a construction site more efficient. And a very important thing to consider in our space is that the range of complexities is extremely high in our space. So you're dealing with a customer who's saying to you, Frau Tönnies, I cannot find my excavator. And you're standing there in front of him, and you cannot really picture that difficulty because an excavator is something hard to lose. It's a big piece of equipment. But then you also have customers in our space who are saying, I want to have predictive analytics for the temperature of my hydraulic oil because this is a single point of failure in my tunnel. So we've seen that there's already so much complexity in the use cases that it's very important for us to be so niche or so focused on our one industry. Otherwise, it's very difficult to actually attain a feasible outcome. Then, once we've employed analytics and come to a conclusion of something relevant to the end user, we play it back to him in the most intuitive manner by either using dashboards, which are home-built, or we also like integrating into third-party apps. Meaning that usually our customer is well above 40, 50. He's been accustomed to his SAP, Microsoft environment for a very, very long time, that we don't want to deter him from this. He should continue using that. He should get his notifications in his newly acquired Teams because you can't completely remodel your user. You need to find a way to shape his lifestyle or give him a different tool, which he might be accustomed from his consumer lifestyle of apps, which give him signals in his private life. So something that integrates well into his existing workflow and presents a feasible tool. And thereby, we usually differentiate between two use cases. One being what we call the corrux asset manager, where we do all of the things that I mentioned before with the more basic metrics. So fuel management, different types of locationing across different sites. How can you perhaps remodel your machine disposition, meaning how can you plan your machines better, and have that all in a consistent dashboard. Why is this important? We're dealing with an industry where you have between 10 to 50 different vendors on one construction site, a Caterpillar, a Volvo. So you have basically a completely fragmented and colorful fleet. So it's important that a user can just attain a simple overview through something like the Asset Manager. With corrux Fuse, that's what delights my academic heart. It goes more down to finding out what anomalies we can foresee, what potential failures of machines we can predict in order to streamline the operations on site. And it always goes the same step. First, we aggregate data, either from readily available APIs or other sources, data that's already stored on servers from end users, or manually extracting them through third-party hardware, since we are a software-only company, and we work with several very sound and long-existing hardware partners just to enable the fast data acquisition. Then it goes into analyzing, and then the third and most important step for very many industries in our industrial space is to have something that you can actually act upon. So a feasible outcome which the user A understands. So contextualizing data insights is so valuable because our users are all not SAP HANA subscribers. They don't all know how to translate something they see on a dashboard. So you need to think, how can my favorite example is always the Harry on the construction site. How can Harry really understand this? So how can you spin it back to him so he says, okay, I saw that corrux has calculated a potential failure. I'm actually going to take action now. And that takes quite a little bit of finesse, which is why we split out the team with approximately 80% of our team doing very technical work. So my co-founder leading all of our heavy analytics, deep learning, as well as the hardware department. And I myself am from a construction family, so basically very used to the smell of tarmac and asphalt, and that's something that gets my heart beating. And it does take that understanding of the customer, of being able to act upon what he really needs. So independent of what industry you might be in, if you're tackling a use case which requires a lot of technical finesse, also think about what your real user's understanding is. And this has been something that's been guiding us in our first year, where we were founded in 2018, and really looking at how do you create something which is of value to your industry. We're based in Munich, needless to say, always hiring. So if you're ever in for an international atmosphere too, we have an office in Boston, and we are proud to say that we're backed by Target and raising always. So also, if you want to get in touch with us for figuring out what your advantage with corrux can be, whether it's a recruiting effort or whether you have capital you need to deploy, please contact me, and I look forward to getting in touch with any of you. Thank you very much.